Less than a year later, Gege Akutami is back with another manga, and surprise surprise, it's Jujutsu Kaisen Part 2, but with aliens. Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, I think it's just Modulo, takes place 68 years after the events of Jujutsu Kaisen and follows Yuta and Maki's grandkids as our protagonist duo, as well as this alien guy. Okay, what is up with aliens, bruv? I would like to blame Kishimoto and Boruto for ruining any manga that comes out from now on that features aliens, because like, off the gate, it's just gonna be called, oh look, it's Boruto Next Generations or whatever. But like, Toriyama did it first, and I'm sure many others did it before him as well. I just don't see it as a big issue in a vacuum. It's more so the execution that matters way more. But you already have people on Twitter and stuff calling Gege washed based off of like the most dogshit leaks you've ever seen, and me as the savior of Jujutsu Kaisen, I'm gonna put a stop to it. I'm gonna do what no JJK fan dares to do. I will read the first chapter from start to finish before I have an opinion on it. Shocking, I know. Be right back. Well, that was a trip. Speaking of trips, you can make a trip down here and become a member like these two fine people that apparently did and I didn't notice. Oops. Anyways, where to begin? Aliens. That's interesting. Now, I've never been someone to hardcore hate on Boruto just because it has aliens. I always care mostly about the execution, and JJK having aliens is either going to be good or a train wreck, no in between. To start with, I don't want the source of Jujutsu to be some kind of alien thing that alien Jesus is going to come to Earth with and beat everyone else up because their alien Jujutsu is the real deal compared to the human kind of Jujutsu. The leaks were making it out to be like Jujutsu is from the aliens, but throughout the chapter, a one-to-one link is never shown, and I hope Gege keeps them separate. So to recap what has happened in the last 70 years, Yuta and Maki have gotten married, had kids, those kids had kids, and now we're following the story of Yuka and Tsurugi Okotsu. The two of them are Jujutsu sorcerers and have to team up with Marulu Volvolyevoli, or whatever, Maru for short, an alien that has been tasked with following around the Jujutsu sorcerers in order to find out whether his alien buddies can live in harmony with the humans. Somehow he's managed to sneak his way into a mission with Yuka and Tsurugi, but unlike their kind grandpa, these two are actual brats and will bully poor Maru for no reason at all throughout the chapter basically. Maki must have some crazy strong genes because her grandkids are basically mini versions of her, personality-wise. Brash, blunt, and competitive, yet Yuta's kindness is still there as seen clearly with Yuka consoling Maru later and bringing him some food. Takoyaki, I think. Speaking of Maru, I kinda like him. One of my favorite tropes in a story is the fish out of water trope, and basically where you have a character that doesn't really fit into a certain scenario, trying their best to fit in. All Maru knows about sorcerers is that they have a similar power to his, so the entire time he's like a child asking about each and every little thing. It's endearing, and it's funny seeing him ask over and over again what a curse user is just to get ignored by the two siblings for the majority of the time. He's very much trying his hardest to stay hidden and trying to learn as much as possible about the sorcerers and humans by extension. This serves as a good way to have a character that asks a lot of questions, which can give answers to the viewer without it feeling like a big ol' exposition dump. I do feel like this chapter is a bit heavy with it at times, but since it's only going to be serializing for about 6 months, I imagine they've got a lot of stuff to cram into it before the series is finished. Another thing about Maru, more so an interesting theory that I've been told a couple times now, is that he might end up being Sukuna's reincarnation. Hear it out. At the end of the main story, when Sukuna is talking to Mahito, he mentions that should he be given the opportunity to live again, he would perhaps choose a different path. Maru's speech about ideals and how important they are, as well as his love for his sibling, are all in stark contrast to Sukuna, who doesn't care and ate his own twin brother. Add on to him the face markings he's got that kinda look like Sukuna's, and what we've got is the first major theory for Modulo. Personally, I did think it sounded a little bit like a callback to Sukuna's whole deal, but the opposite. The idea though of Sukuna becoming an alien doesn't really sit right with me. I think Modulo is specifically trying to break away from the older generation, so if Sukuna ends up coming back in a meaningful way, I feel like it'll take away from Maru as a character. I want him to be his own person, rather than this whole reincarnation bit that I personally have never enjoyed in any of these series that much. That isn't to say it can't work, I'm sure you can find me one that has done it well, but for this one in specific, I would just rather it be a small footnote that's implied rather than fully explored. Maybe I'll change my mind in the future, but this is just my gut reaction to what amounts to just a theory at this point anyway. Now, the mission at hand for this chapter, by the way, to catch a predator, is dark as hell. Japanese kids being abducted to sell off in the black market is pretty on brand for JJK, and the whole plot surrounding these three as they try to find the curse user reminds me a lot of old school JJK. And by old school JJK, I mean like 4 or 5 missions that they did throughout the entirety of the story. It's a lot of fun, up until they actually find the guy and he's got a wall full of kids, no diddy, vacuum sealed and ready to be shipped off to Epstein Island. Release the files, Donald. Since Tsurugi went in first, he got captured and it's up to Maru and Yuka to save him. Though we do see that he breaks from his restraints on his own, so I think he was just waiting for the right moment to strike. Speaking of right moment, Yuka decides that now is the best time to fight Tsurugi, beat his ass and get a ring back. Oh yeah, the ring. Basically, Yuta gave her this ring a long time ago, but after he died, the Gojo family took it away from her and gave it to her brother instead to watch over him. It's funny, 68 years later and the patriarchy strikes again, and it does make you wonder what exactly did the last generation do with her influence post Sukuna. I would love to delve deeper into that, but I'm going to give the story some more time to find its footing. Back to the ring, Tsurugi doesn't actually want it, but until he's strong enough to not need it, he's essentially forced to keep it on him, which might potentially be a binding vow. It sets up a pretty neat sibling rivalry though, where the end goal doesn't have to be the siblings hating or fighting each other, instead just getting strong or stronger than their grandparents. If Tsurugi can become as strong as Maki, he'll no longer need the ring and can give it back. If Yuka can reach the same height as Yuta, she can prove that she's worthy of her grandfather's ring and get the ring back that way. I'm excited to see the payoff, but for now, Tsurugi is slightly stronger. He outmatches Yuka, she sulks for like 3 seconds and is immediately ready to kick this skinny, ugly bastard son's ass. Gege's humor definitely shines through this chapter, and there's a lot of cute and funny moments that make me miss the shenanigans of the mainline Jujutsu Kaisen, but also makes me excited for what we're gonna get with this run as well. The main villain of this chapter is a no-name human trafficker who basically has Minato's ability to teleport around. He uses talismans instead of kunai and is equally as fodder. Prime Hiruzen solos. He's got a cool enough ability, but this fight is more set up to be a stage for Tsurugi and Yuka to team up, show us their moves, and set aside their little squabble, only for the guy to almost teleport the kidnapped kids away anyway, but Maru comes in with the alien clutch and saves the day. Now, Yuka's ability is, I don't know, Yamcha's Wolfang Fist? The one guy from Heaven Arena? It's alright, not particularly unique, but since I can see her eventually getting the ring, and as a result Rika, maybe it's so simple on purpose. Tsurugi on the other hand has a heavenly restriction, but also a cursed katana that he can use the new shadow style with. It's a cool move because he uses the same one as Kusakabe, which either implies that Kusakabe taught him, doubtful, or someone else unnamed from the school did. Potentially Wiwi? When drawing out his blade, the sparks of the scabbard and guard are infused with cursed energy and burn everything they touch. It's a pretty sick looking ability, but we only get the one page showing it off. Maru's abilities are pretty vague. You can kind of find Tsurugi because him and Yuka are relatives, so there's some wibbly wobbly harmony thing going on, and his third eye which can dispel Jujutsu maybe? Or at least it can mindfuck the guy so hard he collapses on the ground. Open to interpretation at this point really. Tsurugi and Yuka though are pretty interesting as characters. Yuka follows in Yuta's footsteps, while Tsurugi follows in Maki's. Like grandfather, Yuka has a curse technique and has spent her life honing it, while Tsurugi has a heavenly restriction. Some new stuff we've learned about it is that heavenly restriction people can still train and grow physically stronger. I mean, look at this guy with his Zoro-inspired workout routine. What this means, obviously, is Maki upscale. Also, they can learn and use new shadow style, maybe? Tsurugi's heavenly restriction is a partial one, like start of series Maki, so either that's why he can do it, or the katana he's got is a special one. Speaking of agendas and upscaling, the government considers this alien invasion on the same level of Sukuna's rampage from the end of JJK. So either Sukuna is upscaled to alien army with 50,000 aliens level, or these aliens are bums, no in between. To add to the power system talk, after Sukuna's defeat and the ending of the Calling game, sorcerers have been getting weaker as time has passed on, which is perfectly in line with curses getting stronger back when Gojo was still around. I think this is to set up threats that could actually match our cast, while not going full on Boruto mode and invalidating the previous generation. Personally, I'm a fan of this potential approach way more. I know some people like to see characters that will eventually surpass Gojo and Sukuna, and while I can agree with it to an extent, I think it opens a slippery slope and you end up like Dragon Ball or maybe Boruto, and to me that's no fun. Then again, that's just what I enjoy. Back to the siblings, am I crazy or do they kinda hate each other? I'm being a little hyperbolic. But Yuka especially is pretty mean when it comes to her brother. Maru sees this firsthand, her exclaiming that she doesn't actually care what happens to her brother, nor what he does, prompting Maru to give her the whole speech about how important family is. He talked a little bit about his brother and how his brother calls him clumsy and that's why they've been fighting, which to me seems like pretty clear misdirection. I assume him and his brother just have big opposing views, but we'll end up seeing in the future. For Tsurugi and Yuka, she doesn't actually hate Tsurugi. I think she more so just respects him and wants to be like him, but better than him, so that she can get her ring back. That has kind of been the central focus for Yuka's character so far, is that ring. Personally, I think both the siblings have really good motivations, and with this being such a short serialization, I believe these simpler, more grounded goals are better than something that can spiral into a unmanageable mess writing-wise. So, having Yuka want to get her ring back by getting stronger, and Tsurugi want to get stronger to give the ring back. It's a really nice bit of, I don't know, parallel goaling that they've got going on. I don't know what a writing term for that would be. Elephant in the room though, Gege is no longer the artist, actually. I mean, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? Yuji Iwasaki is the illustrator of Cypher Academy, and he will be doing the art for Modulo, while Gege is the writer. Now, I wouldn't call the art bad. It's got its charm and gives off the vibe of a 2010 shonen, which I do like, but, big but here, Gege's Jujutsu Kaisen artwork is iconic at this point. And for me, it was a big part of my enjoyment in the series. With that being said though, based off of this chapter, Iwasaki is a much more detail-oriented artist, and a lot of the drawings here look really good. Iwasaki also has a strong eye for visual humor, and a lot of these gag panels are very well done, and I think captured the energy of JJK's humor pretty well. In terms of action, which is where I think Gege really shines, it's nothing outstanding. We don't really get anything major. Let's just hold off on being too mean. But what we do, I think, just looks good enough. And I can see maybe some hints of Gege's influence in the paneling, mainly like this one. I don't know why, but it looks very Gege-y to me. But Iwasaki is still a good artist, so I'm not worried about the story going forward, visually speaking. And so we're not gonna, harp on the art too much, at least based off of the first chapter. I think the color page looks really good though. So I don't believe there's any reason to despair over this, especially because Gege not having to, overexert himself by doing everything, including the art, means a potentially better story all the way through. A lot of people really underestimate just how hard and taxing doing both art and story are for manga authors. With all that being said, Modulo is off to a solid start. I haven't been blown away from what I've been seeing, but JJK was like axed almost within like 10 chapters, and look what happened to it years later. I don't know if Modulo will be as good as his predecessor, but I am optimistic. I'll be covering this weekly, so make sure to subscribe and check out my other stuff while you're at it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.